It wasn't pretty. It wasn't easy, but BYU finds a way somehow, and they go to 4-0 in Big 12 play. We're talking about that. AJ Dybantsa's flu game, Jimmer Fredette being immortalized in the Marriott Center, and a whole lot more. Live edition, Locked On Cougars. Let's roll.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, 14-year credentialed media member at BYU, your resident expert and insider, as your host here on Locked On Cougars. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day, and thank you for making all of us at Locked On America's #1 sports podcast network. Coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about BYU basketball. They're 4-0 in Big 12 play, and they had to grind it out against the TCU Horned Frogs. We'll dig into that, what to take away from that. Then we're going to talk about the Jimmer Fredette, officially going to have his number 32 jersey raised into the rafters at the Marriott Center. We'll discuss everything that involves one of the all-timers in BYU basketball history. And then we'll finish up today's show with a new commitment to the BYU football program, Journey Tonga. Who is he? Where's he coming from? And what does he offer to BYU? Well, stay tuned. We're going to talk about him in being a running back that BYU can rely upon. And as always, thank you to all of you for tuning in. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Redeem the promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off your first ticketing purchase. All right. If you did not see it, and I don't know why you wouldn't have seen it, because if you're tuning in at 11:54 p.m. Mountain Time, BYU basketball just finished off their fourth straight Big 12 win to open Big 12 play. They're 4-0. Win streak officially at 13 straight games for the Cougars. They're now 16-1 on the season. And this one was a grimy, gritty, just really tough game for BYU to find a way in this one. And yeah, the officiating didn't help for long stretches of this game. I say it once, I'll say it again, that college basketball officiating is a blight on an otherwise, I think, decent sport. But the way that the stop-start nature of officiating can really disrupt a game, it's what turns people off to college basketball. It's actually a pretty fine product when they get out of the way, speaking of the Zebras, but that's neither here nor there. But the nice part about this is there's two things I want to hit on here. AJ Dybantsa is an absolute superstar. Richie Saunders picked up his fourth foul with 14 minutes and 30 seconds to go in this contest and was put on the bench for quite a long stretch there. In the first 8 minutes of the second half, after BYU went into halftime down 6 points, AJ Dybantsa essentially came out of the locker room and said, all right, enough's enough. And he ends up scoring 17 points in the first 8 minutes of that second half and absolutely looked every bit the part of the superstar that we've all believed he is, can be, and will be down the line, whether it's in college basketball, the NBA, or otherwise. He is otherworldly in his ability to take over games. And that's the nice part about what BYU has on this roster is they have a guy like AJ Dybantsa that can, in a moment, say, okay, enough's enough. I'm taking this over. It reminds me of some of the greats. And I know this is college basketball and the NBA's apples to oranges, but I'm telling you, the greats know when to take over games. And it reminds me of somewhat Michael Jordan did in the past. Guys like LeBron James have done, Kevin Durant. And that's kind of the career arc we're all hoping to see what AJ Dybantsa can end up being for the BYU basketball program and obviously on into the pro ranks as soon as next year. But what he did in this game, I thought was say, okay, that's enough's enough. Rob doesn't have it tonight. Richie is saddled with foul trouble. All right, it's me. And all he did was go out there and put on a show and showed, I think, all the skills. The nice part is I was actually reading a draft profile for him on actually Wednesday morning. So yeah, yesterday morning at this point. And I was reading about it and said one of the big question marks about him is his long range shooting, his 3-point shooting. Is it going to translate? Because he's been shooting at a clip somewhere in the 30% range. Well, all he showed was an improved 3-point shot in this game. I thought, from my perspective, I know he was only 2 of 7 from 3, but when he made those 2, that was a stretch where I think he couldn't miss. And he's going to need to up that percentage at some point. But I'm telling you, the takeover ability by him is absolutely incredible. That's good by my main man Slim here. It says AJ is a Jordan and Bryant mix. Kobe Bryant, yeah, he does have that takeover ability like Kobe had back in the day. Jump shot at the elbow is automatic. Yeah, there's so much to like about AJ's game, and he, I think, single-handedly for a long stretch of that second half said, okay, yeah, enough's enough. We have the big three, but tonight it's the big one, and that was nice to see. Now, the other thing I took away from this game is the final media timeout came with, I think it was 2:56 to go, if I recall. And coming out of that timeout, and any of you who will remember NBA back in the day, they called it winning time with the Michael Jordan Bulls. And I know that AJ was under the weather, so there's a lot of comparisons to the flu game of MJ in the 98 finals, all the different stuff. But you look at it, 2:56 to go. What did BYU come out and do? And essentially all they did is they played winning time basketball. They locked up on defense. They played really, really cohesive team basketball, and they found a way to win the game. And that's a mark of a team that knows, okay, this game hasn't gone any way I think any of us expected it to. And I'm speaking like as if I were in the locker room, but I'm not. But it's a game that you didn't expect. It was a really, like I said, gritty, grimy affair. TCU mucked up the game, and BYU said, okay, yeah, guess what? You guys had your chance. Now it's our time to go out there and win this game. So that was nice to see. The final 3 minutes, it was like 2:56. BYU played winning basketball, and they've done that a handful of times this season, and they needed it in that circumstance, and they were able to kind of dig deep and pull that out. And that's the mark of a big performance for BYU, even though this is one of those games that you're not going to remember 2 weeks from now. It's one of those games you'd rather forget, quite honestly. But there are moments in every game that you have to handle, and BYU did just that. Some of you asking, Adam asking, why didn't Abdullah or Bidu Ahmed play? Shoulder issue. He had a shoulder. It's been taped up. If you saw in the Utah game, apparently it wasn't going to allow him to play in tonight's game. They also didn't have Xavier Staten as well, so they had to rely upon Mihailo Boskovic as well as Hadim Boop, and I thought both of those guys had some moments. Mihailo making a big three at one point in that second half. I thought he played some really strong defensive basketball when he was kind of called upon to play that 5 spot, even though the 5 spot is not his position of choice, but of necessity, he played well. Hadim Boop, I think, also played some solid minutes. And yeah, when Richie Saunders needed to make a play, Kennard Moo Davis needed to make a play, Robert Wright, every one of them stepped up. And that final stanza of the game was really, really impressive. And then Caden asking this, did the TV broadcast say anything about the officiating? They did. Sean Farnham was trying to make heads and tails of it. And yes, you could hear the refs you suck chant. It did come through the TV. I was not at the game tonight. Many of you know that I have to be up. My alarm's going to go off in exactly 4 hours. It's midnight Mountain Time right now. So my alarm goes off in 4 hours for my morning radio show. But I'm here with you guys. I figured if I'm going to record the show and play it tomorrow morning, why can't I just do it live for those that are up late? So that's what we're doing here. So you could hear it on the TV, and the officiating, it was a struggle bus. And I'm going to give a shout out. I need to pull this up here. Colton Potter, who works for BYU TV. I thought he had a fantastic tweet about the officiating in this game. Now, Colton is the producer for BYU TV and BYU Sports Nation. So I got producer pride because I'm a producer as well. He's the coordinating producer for BYU Sports Nation. And he said this about the officiating. He said, this is by far my biggest gripe with Big 12 basketball. Refs usually leave their whistles in the bag in the first half, and it turns into rugby. Second half, they call everything so ticky-tacky, and there is zero flow to the game. Consistently happens on a nightly basis. And I got to agree with him. The first half was an absolute slog. It was a Donnybrook, is the term I used on social media. And the second half, it turned into, it kind of devolved. Now, there was a stretch in there in the second half where the officials kind of like backed away and said, hey, we're going to let these guys play. And it was actually the best stretch of basketball we got all night. Officiating is officiating. And while I despise how much college basketball officiating, in my opinion, ruins the sport, because I'm telling you, it's a good product that's marred by inept in just poor officials, and it could have been better tonight. But the bigger point to be made here, BYU gets the dub. That's all that matters. They found a way in spite of everything. They didn't shoot well. They weren't necessarily rebounding well. Some of the calls going against them, like all the different things that could have conspired against them, BYU did the dang thing and won their 4th straight game. Now, as I've said multiple times on this podcast, for those of you who are everydayers, that was the easy stretch. That 4-game stretch is the easiest BYU is going to face. And up next, a top 15 showdown down at United Supermarkets Arena in Lubbock, Texas. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, who dispatched Utah pretty easily tonight, they're going to be awaiting BYU in Lubbock, and now it gets real. That is what we're going to see from this BYU basketball team is, okay, you got through the, quote, easy stretch of the Big 12 season. Now the level of play needs to go up, and can BYU be commensurate with that and raise their level of play? We're all about to find out. So obviously we'll see what happens on this. Big Flop asking, my Davis had 2 points. Why does he got all these minutes? His role is not to score, Big Floppa. He's out there to play defense, rebound, and be the kind of the connector. Moo is the 5th option offensively for BYU, and it's nothing against him personally. He knows his role, and he plays it very, very well. And his defense, downright elite. He is really, really good on the ball defense-wise, and that's what BYU has him out there before playing, as you mentioned, all those minutes. All right, so big win for BYU, but we get to reminisce on one of the greatest periods in BYU sports history, and I'm saying sports history in general, because the Jimmer Fredette is going to have his jersey, his number 32, raised to the rafters in the Marriott Center. It's been a long time coming, well-deserved, and we're going to talk about why it took so long, what it means for the BYU basketball program, and a whole lot more coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Nothing like the college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it all. We have the national championship coming up on Monday night. The energy, the bands, the moments you will always remember forever. Actually getting your tickets, that part used to be the most frustrating part. Long queues, logins you forget, and obviously prices jumping at checkout as you try to get those tickets you want. That's why Game Time is here. It gives you the advantage back to the fans. And it's not just college football. Whether you want to go to concert, theater, college basketball games, or any other sporting event, they got the tickets for you guys. It's the easiest way to unlock your amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. You open the Game Time app to look at upcoming concerts, events, college football games, and be surprised how fast it is to find great seats. And the best part is the app is super easy to use. It's one of my favorite things. I'm all about UI, user interfaces, and they have an incredible UI with our friends over at Game Time. You go from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. And the best part is knowing your prices include all fees right up front. Makes the whole process stress-free. Take a guess. We're going to buy your tickets and do it with our friends at Game Time, my friends. Download Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, it's the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for making Locked On America's #1 sports podcast network. If you want to join the Locked On Cougars Everydayer Club, shameless plug for you guys to do just that. Go to lockedoncougars.supercast.com. Helps you support the show and also get perks that you can't find anywhere else. If you want to get like unique Locked On swag, all that type of stuff, lockedoncougars.supercast.com. All right. Big announcement yesterday as BYU officially announced that the Jimmer Fredette is going to have his number 32 jersey raised to the rafters in the Marriott Center. Now, you're probably wondering what took so long here. Well, BYU and their Hall of Fame and everything, they required that an athlete be 15 years removed from their playing days before they can be enshrined and honored in the way that BYU basketball is going to honor the Jimmer. And let's just put it this way. Have you seen anybody else wear the number 32 jersey since that 2011 season that Jimmer Fredette enjoyed? I haven't. I don't think you have either, because essentially has been retired for all those years. Nobody was going to wear that number, because when you do what Jimmer did as the Naismith Memorial Player of the Year, when essentially every Player of the Year award, lead BYU to the Sweet 16, do everything that Jimmer accomplished, yeah, you're one of the all-timers in a Cougar uniform, and it's well-deserved. I'm looking forward to this night because I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit for you guys. Many of you know I've been working in sports media since 2010. Well, I was an intern with Greg Wrubell, who is the venerable voice of the BYU Cougars. Back in 2010, I got an internship with him, and I worked that football season, and then the following basketball season was, once again, Jimmer Fredette's senior season. if you want an introduction into sports media as a guy who came with a non-traditional background in terms of, I wasn't studying comms at BYU at the time. I was a history major of all things, and I got this internship. And then all of a sudden you have one of the most singular college basketball seasons by a singular basketball player. That introduction, yeah, and Cody, you work in sports media? Yes, I do. I know you're trolling, but nonetheless, that introduction to watching how the media worked around Jimmer Fredette, I will never forget it. And we're now, 15 years on, obviously, since then. It's incredible to consider how long ago it was, but it also feels like yesterday to me because it was an absolutely remarkable time. And I think any one of you who were alive during the Jimmer Fredette era, and some of our listeners and our viewers may be too young to simply remember it because it has been a decade and a half. It is absolutely incredible to consider the heights that Jimmer ascended to during that season. And that's why this is going to be such a big night on Valentine's Day when Colorado's in town, that BYU is going to raise that banner and raise the jersey of Jimmer Fredette into the rafters at the Marriott Center. He's going to be immortalized forever there. And I love the fact that they waited the required time, the 15 years, and got it done. Like, you didn't need to waste any time. I know that some of you, Quint Whipple talking about, I was in Denver that year and they beat Gonzaga. There's that iconic shot. Any of you, I'm a guy who wrote Sports Illustrated my entire life. Is that iconic cover of Jimmer Fredette levitating seemingly against Gonzaga in that NCAA tournament run. It's actually one of the few Sports Illustrated covers I still have to this day. I've got a handful of them. I've got like the LeBron James one when he was in high school. I've got that Jimmer Fredette one. That Jimmer Fredette experience is probably the best way to call it, was unlike anything else that any of us, I think and who knows, maybe AJ Dybantsa ascends to that, but I'm telling you, remember back 15 years ago, this time, Jimmer Mania was in full effect. And I know that the Brandon Davies stuff took some of the steam out of that season, ultimately cost BYU maybe a run at the Final Four, because you look at the way that bracket broke in that NCAA tournament. Had they had Brandon Davies and his ability to kind of be that secondary option for BYU, who knows if they would have been able to make that run. I feel like they would have personally. But thinking back on that, and Adam makes a good point here. I still remember when Kevin Durant tweeted about Jimmer Fredette, and there's that famous tweet that Kevin Durant called Jimmer Fredette the best scorer in the world. And at the time, wasn't he? Like, he was the absolute best of the best. And this is why it is going to be a major celebration on Valentine's Day. It's going to be all love for Jimmer Fredette on the day of love. And it's well-deserved. A couple of you pointing out, Main Man Slim, the Utah half-court buzzer at the half was absolutely insane. Some of you guys are going to get a kick out of this. Jimmer Fredette's senior year, and I was a student at BYU. You know how many games I saw Jimmer Fredette play live during the 2010-2011 season? Big fat goose egg. I was never on site. I was actually working at KSL Broadcast House, which ironically enough, I now work at on a day-to-day basis, working for the KSL Sports Zone. But I was working behind the scenes, and to listen to the live feed of Greg Wrubell and Mark Durant calling those games, dealing with all the different requests that were coming in from media all over the country, it was a really, really incredible time. And that half-court buzzer beater for that Utah game, after I got off of my shift that night, after that game wrapped up, I had some friends who had gone to the game up at the Huntsman Center. I went up to meet them at the Pie. You guys know the basement where the original Pie location, if I recall correctly, I think it's the original one, up there near the University of Utah campus. Well, we walked in there and we placed an order for some pizzas and whatnot. We were just going to catch up and have a good time. And they asked what name to put on this order, and I'll never forget it. It's my buddy Colton White. I don't know if he'll get this go back to him, but he walked over to the counter and they asked what name they wanted to put on the order, and he said Jimmer. And the guy looked at him and said, "There's no bleeping way I am saying that name as your order name." My buddy said, "Well, that's what it is." So, good times. I'm just reminiscing on like old times because it's that vivid in my mind. All these different moments, him doing what he did against San Diego State, the moments against New Mexico, just all the things that Jimmer Fredette accomplished. It it is one of the singular moments in BYU sports history. Yeah, we have the Danny Ainge of the 1980 season. Obviously, we've got things like Ty Detmer, his Heisman Trophy. We've got some incredible moments, the national championship for BYU football. Cody points out the 52 points is up there. Like everything that Jimmer did that year, you could take like a fifth of it, and it would be an all-time career for a lot of players. But we all experienced, if like I said, if you're old enough to remember what Jimmer Fredette meant and what he was, you're never going to see that again. And it's nothing against what AJ Dybantsa or anybody else in BYU basketball history is, could be, or will be. I'm telling you, to match that, I don't know that it can happen, because it was. Twitter was still kind of in its infancy in so many ways. It was 2011, and it was kind of a cultural phenomenon, but it's not what it is today. It just, pardon the like kind of me just kind of bloviating on about this, but it's so cool to think about it. It's been that long since Jimmer Fredette did what he did. But I think for every one of us, and myself included, it is one of those moments you're never going to forget. And yeah, what could have been? Could they have made that run to the Final Four had the Brandon Davies situation not blown up as that season was coming to a close? Who knows? But what an incredible moment. And it's going to be another cool moment to be there in the Marriott Center. I'm not going to miss it. I'm sure many of you that have a chance, you'll be there for it, to watch that jersey raised to the banners. And his wife, they were on social media. I don't know if you see, I saw it on Wednesday, saying that they should rename the Marriott Center to the Jimmernasium. Kind of fun name. I think it'd be kind of cool. But I also know that the Marriott family essentially has that name in perpetuity because they funded the original construction of it like 50 whatever years ago it was. So incredible stuff for Jimmer Fredette. Well deserved, and congratulations to him. And I'm looking forward to seeing that a month from now when he's there, and they're obviously that number 32 jersey goes up in the rafters along some of the all-timers, the Danny Ainges, the Roland Minsons, Mel Hutchins, like the OGs, the greats in BYU basketball history. And amen to them, Jimmer Court. Hey, might be worth a consideration, but who knows what happens. But it's an incredible moment to think about what Jimmer has done, what he's meant to BYU basketball in particular, and just what he means to BYU in general. That's the thing about this, is all he's done ever since then is be an incredible representative of BYU. He's played in the Olympics, played in the NBA, he's the number 10 pick. So many cool things, and well-deserved honor for him, as he will have his jersey enshrined up there in the Marriott Center. All right. We are going to finish up this live edition of the Locked On Cougars coming up next. We're going to flip over to a football note, though. If you did not see it on social media, I believe it's Lusinger High School announced the commitment for another BYU football player. And some of you wondered, hey, what's BYU going to do at running back next season? Well, they're dipping back into the California prep ranks, and we'll see what Journey Tonga has got for the BYU Cougars. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Appreciate all of you for staying up late. If you're watching this live, if you're watching this after the fact, appreciate any and all engagement you guys give it. We got 215, I think, concurrently watching this. If you have not liked the show, click that thumbs up icon on YouTube. If you're watching it after the fact, please like, rate, review, share, subscribe. Do everything that you do to help support this podcast. Leave comments in the YouTube comments. You guys are absolutely awesome. We had a banner 2025, and let's just put it this way, 2026, we're off to an incredible start as well. So thank you in advance, as always, for all of your support, and thank you for making Locked On Cougars part of your day. All right, so let's talk about BYU football just for a moment here before we go on today's show. And yesterday, officially Wednesday, Lusinger High School, which is in Lawndale, California, and I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, I think it's Lusinger High School, announced a commitment for Journey Tonga, who has been a running back for them the past 3 or 4 years. And the interesting part is, I wasn't even sure who this young man was, but I started looking him up, pulled up some of his stats, and it kind of screams to me that BYU, I think they've got a pattern here when it comes to recruiting running backs under Harvey Unga and in BYU's offense. Because think about this. What do Jamal Williams, Tyler Algier, Sione Moa, and now Journey Tonga have in common? And if you said they're all Southern California prep stars who had major production at the high school level and have been, at least serviceable, if not outright stars for the BYU football program, ding, 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 you're right. Now, Journey Tonga is going to have to see what his career turns out to be for BYU. But when you've ran for over 5,000 yards, 55 career touchdowns like Journey Tonga has, well, like I said, I think there is an archetype that BYU's dipping back into here and bringing him to Provo, Utah. Now, he's not as big as some of these other running backs that BYU has had out of Southern California. He's listed at 5'9", 190 pounds. So he's not the 6 foot that Jamal Williams was. I think Tyler Algier was like 5'11". Sione Moa, I think, is like 5'10" himself. So they have like, I think, a tried and true method that they're trying to dip back into here. And Journey, it appears he's all in with BYU. I had a short interaction with him on social media. I reached out to him and said, hey, congratulations on your commitment. Can you kind of just fill me in on the details? Says he's planning on enrolling in April, so that'll be spring term for BYU. So he'll have essentially the summer months to get up to speed in Provo, go through summer workouts, and then hit training camp and see if he can add something to BYU's running back room. I think all of us understand that this is the LJ show. Speaking of LJ Martin coming into his senior season, the reigning Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. There's no doubt that we're all expecting to see LJ go off, and he's 1,347 yards away from being BYU's all-time leading rusher. And considering he had 1,305 yards, if I recall correctly, this past year, with some good luck and some good health, there's no reason to think that he can't leave as the all-time leading rusher in BYU football history. But behind him, it's kind of been a question mark. Let's be honest. We've been talking about on the podcast how they probably need to hit the portal to find maybe another running back that can offer some availability at minimum. Well, I think based on how the recruiting's going and the fact that my sources have not indicated that BYU has very many prospects in the portal, I think they're banking on bringing back who they've got. That includes Sione Moa, Jovessa Damuni, Preston Rex, and then 2 incoming freshmen. And one you're pointing out here, Cody, keep your eyes out for Devon Eka. Yes, Devon Eka plays at Lehigh High School. He is just actually already enrolled at BYU, so he's there for winter workouts, which will be beginning, I believe, next week if they haven't started already. Now, Devon is one of my personal favorites. I live not too far from Lehigh High School. I have had the opportunity to watch Devon play over the past, at least over the last 3 seasons for the Pioneers, and he's turned into an incredible athlete. And I think that if he can bulk up a little bit, that's kind of my one concern about Devon right now, is does he have the weight that is going to help him succeed at the college level quite yet? I think that Devon Eka, and then also adding Journey Tonga to the mix here, and he's a 3-star prospect in his own right, a lower 3-star, an 81 rating from 24/7 Sports. He's a composite 81 as well. But I think these 2 guys are going to come in, and I think that's essentially going to be the bulk of what your running back room is going to look like. It'll be the LJ Martin show. There's just zero doubt about that. LJ, much like he was in 2025, is going to be the engine that makes this BYU offense go. And yes, having Bear Bachmeier in his second season as BYU starting quarterback, that should take a little bit of the pressure off a guy like LJ. But I think the running back room, based on kind of the way it looks right now, I think it's stacked the way it is. And that means you have LJ Martin as your number 1 running back, provided that Sione Moa is fully healed up from the compartment syndrome he dealt with this season. I think he's your number 2. And then I think number 3 is probably Jovessa Damuni. And then beyond that, Preston Rex, Logan Payne, Charlie Miska, and then the incoming freshman, Devon Eka and Journey Tonga. That's essentially what I envision this running back room being. Is that going to be the running back room that is going to be able to step up in a circumstance like what happened against Iowa State when a guy like LJ Martin gets injured? Will they have the health, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, do all the different things, to be able to provide the punch that they lacked this past year when LJ was out of the lineup? That's the question that remains to be answered in my mind. And like I said, based on the way things kind of project right now with the transfer portal, what I'm hearing from sources and the like, it just doesn't seem like it is going to be a portal addition that's going to make up this BYU running back room. It's going to be 2 incoming freshmen here in Devon Eka and then also Journey Tonga. And Cody says, I think Eka could be RB3 by the end of the season. Eka's a heck of a talent. And my favorite thing about Devon, real quick, is his lateral ability. Is he has the ability to keep his speed, and he may not have top end home run hitting type speed, which very few running backs actually do, but his ability to keep that speed going laterally, that means going side to side. Not very many players at any level of football have what Devon Eka has with that lateral ability. And that is what sets him apart. And that's why I'm excited to see him in a Cougar uniform. Even if he may be a little bit skinny for my liking, I can't say that you're wrong, Cody, in saying that he could be the third string guy for BYU by the end of the year. Heck, if the injury concerns come back around for some of these running backs, does he end up as the backup? I can't discount that. So the nice part is there are bodies incoming for BYU at the running back spot in Devon Eka and Journey Tonga. And by the way, I should say congratulations to Journey. It's awesome to see that production he had. 5,000 yards at the high school level. That's nothing to sniff at. And 55 career touchdowns. You can go look up his huddle highlights. He shows, I think, a very good ability to set up his blocks and burst through holes and play the game the way it's supposed to be played as a running back. And I'm interested to see, is this bet on going back to the Southern California prep ranks, is it replicable annually for BYU? Because it just seems kind of be the archetype and the model BYU is going to follow here. And we'll see what happens. And the other thing about this, I should add on Devon Eka, he's already working out with a guy by the name of Jamal Williams, because Jamal lives here in Utah. Like since his NFL days, they're not behind him quite yet. He was actually kind of waiting on a call this year, and we'll see how much longer he decides to do it. But in the meantime, he's living here in Utah and he's training guys like Devon Eka. So it's cool to have alums like Jamal, who is an all-timer in his own right, kind of training up the next generation of BYU running backs. And it portends some very positive things for BYU. And let's just hope, fingers crossed, they have some good health at running back this coming year. All right. It is now almost 12:30 a.m. I've got an alarm going off in 3.5 hours for radio. I am going to be running on fumes tomorrow, but wanted to get this edition of the podcast out to you guys. And I figured, you know what? If I'm going to record it like at midnight my time, why would I release it? Because we usually release it at 5 a.m. Mountain time. I'm just going to do it live. We'll get it posted. And those of you that want to hang out and watch it live, and 200 and plus of you are like me and up late, thank you, honestly, for all the support. You guys are absolutely awesome. And I appreciate all of you guys for being a part of this show, because I talk into a camera and interact with you guys via the all the different comments you guys make, and I appreciate all of it. So as always, as we often say, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen today. If you want to join the Everydayer Club, go to lockedoncougars.supercast.com to join it there. And also, go make your second listen of the day, whether it's now or maybe in the morning when you get a little bit of sleep. Check out Locked On College Football or Locked On Big 12. I will just tease this. BYU and Utah are playing next Saturday night. And the one, the only, and I just realized my graphic was wrong the entire bloody time I think we ran this show, but Drake Toll's going to be in town for that BYU-Utah game, and we're doing a live show together. So stay tuned for that. We'll have more details for you guys coming very, very soon on that front. But as always, thank you for being here, and thank you for being an everyday right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.